Hello, and welcome to the PR Essential Summit. Thank you for joining us. I'm excited to have Carlin Ankrum, the CEO and founder of OSnap Social. We're going to talk about social media in the New Year's, tips to remember, trends to try, and best practices mostly. Hi, Carlin. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me. Excited to chat with you today.
Awesome. If you guys, before we get started, if you guys want to contact her, you can email her at hello@osnapsocial.com. And your website, I'm guessing, is osnapsocial.com as well. Keeping it easy.
Yep, yep,
All right.
that's right.
Great. Well, let's dive into it. We don't have a crazy slide deck or anything like that. What I wanted to do today is really have people get involved in note taking. So pull out your notes and your pencil and your pen or whatever you use, your iPad, your tablet. And let's talk a little bit about, first of all, I want to kind of talk about some of the emerging trends that happened in 2023. So we're basically going to go into dive into these topics, take a look back at what happened and what that's telling us about the new year and 2024 and what you should do as best practices. And as we all know, social media is changing so rapidly, and there's a lot of things to do, and it can get really overwhelming. For me, I always want to try the new thing, and I'm like, well, does that really make sense? So, Carlin, I would love for you to kind of just dive in. What did we see come out in 2023, and what were the major trends that emerged from there?
I think the biggest thing that we saw in 2023, and it's very appropriate that the Webster word of the year was authentic, because this fits into exactly what we were kind of seeing all over social last year, more so than ever before. I think
Mm,
authenticity has always been part of people's game plan, but I also think people were still very guarded and reserved with how they showed up on social. And it was refreshing in places like LinkedIn, for example,
mhm.
that traditionally have been more of a buttoned up platform, really start to have this level of transparency, and people have been seeing more result from that level of transparency. However, it's always related back to their personal brand or their business brand, right?
Sure.
But there's this level of transparency that people are now kind of seeing the light of like, oh, I guess this does work. Or I guess, people do business with other,
I can still be a
people.
human.
Yeah. And
Right,
I
right.
think because of all, and like, which is another trend we're seeing, is AI kind
Yeah.
of starting to be widely adopted. AI is nothing, air quote, new, really. Because if we think about it, back in the days of, I mean, Microsoft Word is still used, but remember like the little clippy, like the
Yeah,
clippy, like little
the paper
guy on
clip,
the
the
street?
paper clip. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, do you mean this? Like
Yeah.
that is kind of the OG thinking about AI. So AI and generative AI has always kind of been a thing.
Looming, looming
Yeah,
around in the
it's always
background.
been around, but I think we just saw this expansion and wider adoption of AI, both in the copy writing style space as well as the artistic graphic space.
Well, and
Uh,
I just wrote an article too, just about AI and how it's actually still very nascent too, still today, even though we've been seeing it for the last decade, it's
mhm.
made, I mean, it's a very advanced technology. So it's taken a lot of time for it to emerge. And, I work with tech clients and I know you work in the tech space as
Yeah.
well. Like we're seeing it because we're working in that space and now it's hitting journalism and content development. There's still a lot of people who haven't seen AI yet, you know? So
Yeah, I think that's true. And for a while, I will be totally transparent. I was terrified of AI. I'm like, AI is going to come after my job. Like, here we go. But the truth is, at least as we stand right now, it could all change, right? But
mhm.
as we stand right now, I have found that if you know how to use AI with intention, you can win for your clients, right?
Hmm.
Because if people don't have time to do their own social media right now, they're not going to have time to learn AI,
Right.
right? So that's really been for me a sigh of relief, if that makes any sense. Of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
they still like, yes, AI, you could plug something in today and you could copy and paste it. But I will tell you, it's not going to work. And just like consumers are really smart with ads, they're getting smarter with AI. People know when something has been generated by AI.
Just like when we, the phone calls, the sales, telemarketing calls, and then now, if there's a pause, just hang up the phone. Or someone talks to you for a second and doesn't really listen to the answer, but they respond. You're like, wait a minute, this is not a human. It's
Yeah,
just
no,
an
you're
AI.
totally right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great another example. Like consumers are smarter than they ever have been before. And so you still have to show up as you. You still
Mm.
have to do a layer of human review for it to make sense. But what I always say is AI has been a game changer for me in terms of inspiring me of what content I should be writing.
Hmm.
Because there's nothing more intimidating. I don't know about you. There's nothing more intimidating than like a blinking cursor on a white piece of paper on your screen. You're like,
Yeah. Where do
where
I start?
do I start? Right. So if you have an outline or you've kind of got it started, it's really great to put it, into AI and see what else it kind of scrapes and comes up with. I also
Mhm.
love it for speed. It's a great starting place. And it's also
Mhm.
great for repurposing. So if you take your content, maybe it's a really great blog post that like has been organically getting a ton of traffic on your website. Why would you not put that into AI and say, hey, make 17 tweets about this,
Right.
right? Like to see what it comes up with. And that it'll already be in 280 characters or whatever Twitter is saying it has to be now. And you can say use hashtags or give image ideas. And so for people who maybe aren't inherently creative, it could definitely help speed up the process in which it takes you to create content.
Yeah.
That being
I think
said,
I
it's not
think that goes to
strategic.
say though, that doesn't mean you're not creating any content. You do have to create kind of
Yes.
establish a voice and starting points
Yes.
so that you can create those other little pieces that you need.
Exactly. I think people are saying they're called like brand briefs or something. I've been seeing
Mm.
that around the internet of like, here's your AI brand brief. Like you put it into the AI and it tells AI like who you are and what you do and your voice. And so you like train the bot how to sound like you. I
Oh,
haven't gone
okay.
that far. I just make it really simple. I'm like, you're a social media manager who's trying to tell people that they should record more video in 2024. Give them 3 tips, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then it just is a starting point. So yeah, it's definitely a trend that has launched with gangbusters in 2023, and I think it's going to continue into 2024 with like a wider adoption.
Hmm. Do you think that's the biggest? I mean, I guess that is the big buzzword. AI is like the big one.
Yeah,
What
I
about
think
what about platforms when it comes to trends and platforms? Obviously, I think TikTok really, really, really like kind of came to the surface in 2023 and then Twitter turned to X and like yeah, we had some of that controversy happen in 2023. What do you think is going to be and I feel like to your point to what you said at the very beginning, LinkedIn became a little bit more a place to have a good conversation for business.
yes.
Um,
Mhm.
what else do you see for platforms specifically? What should people be looking at? We had YouTube Shorts come out. A lot of stuff happened in 2023.
Yes. So I have a prediction that YouTube Shorts is going to take off, but not in the way that we've seen in the past. So, like, what's been happening, and I have a blog coming out about this because I've been
Hmm.
digging deeper. I'm like, do I really need to, adopt YouTube Shorts to my overall strategy? But something that's really interesting is YouTube in general, right? And you know this, like, hyper in the optimization space
Yeah.
is owned by Google or Alphabet, right? So there's a lot of clout there. However, they're doing right now in 2023, and I suspect they'll be doing it in 2024 for a little while. They are sharing your shorts with a lot of people,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not the right people. So their algorithm is not as smart or as tailored right now as TikTok and Instagram Reels, kind of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like showing it to everybody and trying to find that audience, especially for those of us that are like itty bitty accounts. They're trying to find your people. But by
Yeah.
doing that, they're sharing it to people who maybe aren't actually interested in what you're doing. They're just people who watch shorts.
Yeah.
So you get pumped because you're like, oh my gosh, it got 1,000 views in like a couple hours. It's just gonna go viral. And
Yeah.
then it goes like this, goes shoo, like it just flatlines.
Uh-huh.
And it's because YouTube sent it out to people
To
and
see who
people
would
saw it.
respond.
And then that was it. And then
Like
they're like, okay,
spray
this
and
isn't
pray.
valuable. Yeah. And so I'm like, that's super annoying. But I think short form video is going to continue forward. I think where you play is totally dependent on one, your capacity and where you can stay consistent, and two, where your audience lives. And
Mm-hmm.
I think people have been trying to game the system. And I think a lot of people are going back to, honestly, I feel like they're going to be going back to the basics of marketing, of sharing their messages, and
Well, and that's to
really,
say too, like short form video can come from long form video. So like
yeah,
I see a lot more webinars and stuff like that happening, and then you could just pull from there to create those short bits. So I think
exactly.
repurposing and like pulling
Yes.
from things that you've created, because people are so money and resource strapped right
Mm-hmm.
now, it's
Mm-hmm.
all about not recreating the wheel,
Yeah.
but doing more with what you have.
Yeah. And I have been tooting that horn loud since 2020.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
couldn't go and record videos. We couldn't leave our house. Like we just had to get by. And like I couldn't go to someone's office to record them doing something. So there
Right.
has to be a level of storytelling, a level of understanding who your audience is, and the skill set for repurposing your content that already exists, whether it's in a blog post or a long form video, or shoot, if you're a brick and mortar business and you're like, I have a trifold brochure that sits in my lobby. Okay, start there. It's content's already done.
Yeah.
Start
I mean,
there.
it's funny because we have a client and I do some social media for them. And
Yeah.
that's not our space. Our space is in PR and media relations, but I do, content creation for them. So it's really funny because, they don't really give me a lot of new stuff to work with. And every once in a while I'll have some new things, but then I'm like, they require that they want us to post every day. So I'm
Oof.
posting every single day, which is really rough when you don't have new
Yeah.
content, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'm like, shoot, let me just go look at the website. Let me just
Yeah.
go see what's on the website. And they have like a huge repository of content on their website. It doesn't granted it doesn't change very often, but it's a lot of content that they've invested in their website. So I just go to a page, I just pull from that and I was like,
Yeah.
and then I just say, hey, if you want to learn more, go to this page and learn more about this
Yeah.
particular content. And so
Absolutely.
I'm using, like, it's kind of like old school marketing materials, right? You're going
Yeah.
back and just kind of using your website, your brochure, your white paper, your case study, grab a little snippet of it and then try to get people to, you know,
Exactly. Yeah,
hop them over
absolutely.
there.
And especially because I mean, it's funny that you say that because I've been in that boat many a times where you're just like, please give me something new. The photos I have from your office are from 2020 and everyone's wearing a mask and it's weird now
Yeah.
that I have to post it in 2023. So I'm right there with you in leveraging a website. And I also think that's why still today,
Hmm.
like blogs are super, super vital having on your website, like
Yeah.
consistently, because
And
one,
I
Google
so
algorithm.
many people don't have blogs on their website.
Yeah, and it's a great place for social media managers to comb for content that's
Hmm.
already been approved by you as the thought leader or as the business leader. Uh, it's a really, really, really great, and it helps with your SEO. Like it helps you get found by certain things. So if
Now,
you're
can you
sleeping
can
on
you give us
blogs,
a little bit more, like, because I like this topic of having blog content because it's a really great way to, one, like, I mean, I know what it does for your website, but can you just kind of go over blogs in general, what they do for your website, including the SEO aspects of it and how you can find keywords to get in there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not an SEO expert, but I know
No.
enough to be dangerous. So I know it enough. And if you're an SEO expert listening to this, feel free to set my record straight.
Yeah.
But I have found blogging super valuable because it allows you to cement your thought leadership, number one. It also gives your website from a strategic angle, fresh content for Google to index and comb through so that it can serve up your website if people are searching for a specific query. That being said, there is strategy behind what you decide to write about and what you don't. I have always been of the camp of like, I'm going to write what I want to write, and SEO can be the secondary. There are some folks, most folks, and I typically would recommend you comb for keywords first, utilizing, Uber Suggest or Google Trends, or I think Google even has like Google Keyword Planner, which is part of the
The
ads,
manager.
Google AdWords. But it's a free planner and it tells you like what people are searching for and the volume in which they're searching for it and how much competition there is for it. So there could be a wide open lane there. But it just gives you that credibility. It gives people the ability to drive traffic to your website around specific topics. And if you're like, man, that feels hard to do consistently, especially if you don't have like a web developer or someone on your team that can upload it for you and you don't have the skills. If you know LinkedIn, I would at least try to do some long form articles over on LinkedIn. And the reason why I say that is because back in 2018, I did an article over there that still grows my audience today. Many,
Over
many
when you mean over there, you mean in link on LinkedIn.
over on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah. So I leveraged LinkedIn's domain authority. So if
Hmm.
people were searching, for example, how do I find my SSI score on LinkedIn? My article on LinkedIn associated with my profile was number 2 on Google
Oh wow.
underneath LinkedIn's. So if you're someone who's like, okay, LinkedIn, I know that you have like what you think, but what does this person think about it?
Uh-huh.
And I had a really smart call to action. So I leveraged LinkedIn's domain authority to get my thought leadership out there. It grew my audience to, I think I'm almost at 7,000, right? Continuously. And it got me a lot of comments and allowed me to engage with people over there on LinkedIn. And
What was the topic?
it was how to find your LinkedIn SSI score. People were
Oh,
like,
that
one,
literally was the topic. Okay,
that was
okay, okay.
literally the topic. And back in the day, it was just like an interesting talking point for people because people love data. People want to know where they're at compared to everyone
Somebody
else in
else.
their industry. And I kept getting asked this question on client calls. I'm like, what are these people talking about? And so I found out what it was. And it really was a kind of like a uh, quiz style lead magnet, basically for Sales Navigator on LinkedIn. So like
Oh,
you
okay.
get, and they're like, if you want to improve it, like you should get Sales Navigator. And I was like, But I did it, and the call to action was, what is your SSI score? Take a screenshot or share it with me in the comments. People
Mhm.
legit clicked away, came back to my article, screenshotted their score, and put it in there like, how can I get better?
Oh, wow.
Which then led to me writing like how to improve your LinkedIn SSI score, how to
Right.
show up better on LinkedIn.
And
Like,
this was in LinkedIn articles.
yes,
So like under your profile where it says write an article, that's where you wrote this.
yes. And
Okay.
now, and I think they're really focused on articles more so than video on LinkedIn, which
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to see that trend continue to emerge in 2024 because they've been having for a while, you'd post your article and it would be like gone. Like there's
Yeah.
nowhere to like you can say like what articles are by this person, but it wasn't like easy to find. But now they
No,
have the
it
news
kind of
aspect.
disappears. It gets lost in the ether.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gets lost. And so now they have like the newsletters, which is basically a notification hub for people to get their
Um,
thought leadership out there. So
I love the newsletters.
yeah.
So I'm gonna, yeah, I promote newsletters. I love the newsletters.
Yeah. So if you're like, I don't want to do a blog, that feels hard, but you're like, I know how to do LinkedIn. give LinkedIn articles a try. If you have, more to say than just one or two paragraphs, then it needs to become an article because nobody has time to read your like 7 paragraph
Post.
update.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
I know.
yeah.
I know. Okay, so that's good to know. Okay, so I liked, yeah, I mean, LinkedIn has definitely grown quite a bit over the last, I would say 4 or 5 years since the pandemic. I think it's really been
Yes.
making an effort to become more of a resource for everybody that wants to do business.
Yes.
Because we all had to be doing business online.
Yeah.
Um, but going back to social media, creating social media strategies, and developing a strategy that works for you in 2024. I think that's something that obviously it's December. Social media is, I don't know, in my opinion, it's like the last thing I want to deal with before like actually having to post. Um, but what would you say, going into a new year? Some people like to refresh their strategy. Some people are just continuing what they've already planned. What are your best practices into creating an effective strategy for the next coming year?
I think the first thing is to, now's the time where everyone is looking at their goals for 2024 as a business. I want you to then, after you've defined those goals, I want you to think about how does social media fit into this landscape of how I'm going to crush those goals. I think people put all of their eggs in the social media basket, or they don't pay enough attention to it and the power and value that it has.
Mm-hmm.
So I always encourage people to it's worth refreshing. It's worth looking at where you've been successful this year, but also focused on where do I want to go in 2024 and how does social media as a marketing tactic really layer into all my other efforts that I'm doing, whether I'm doing an email newsletter, direct mail, or getting PR placements, or how does that all work together?
What
And you
would you
have
say? What
time.
would you say? Which goals would you say like social media is most directly tied to?
Uh, for me,
All of them. No.
yeah, I mean, it is. It's part of your marketing suite, if you will. But social media is about the connection. It's about driving traffic. It's about, and I always encourage people to look at their analytics, their Google Analytics at the end of the year
Mm,
and look January to December, how much referral traffic did you get from social and what platforms are they coming from?
right.
Because if you're going all in on a place like Instagram and your referral traffic, which is already going to be lower because people's behavior from Instagram isn't to click away from Instagram, right? Maybe
Yeah.
you need to be spending more time on LinkedIn, or maybe
Something
one
else.
of my
Yeah.
clients, we did an audit at the end of the year for all their platforms because they really only had us focus on the first two in the beginning of the year. And they're like, can you just see like the other platforms that we have presence on, but we haven't updated? I'm like, okay, run to Google Analytics, Pinterest for them. They hadn't updated Pinterest in a year and a half, top referral source of traffic.
Wow. So now you guys are going to look at Pinterest and
Yes. So now it's like, okay, how do we take all the meaty blog content and the ebooks and the intel that you have on your website right now and float it into Pinterest, optimizing the pins properly, coming up with video ideas that are associated
uh-huh.
to get people to click on that content. And so that's
Is
been,
Pinterest still very relevant? I just like wonder. Pinterest
yeah,
is
it
like there.
is. I
It's just
think
like
people sleep on it.
it just exists. And then I feel like that happened to me one time. I looked and I was like, wow, why am I getting referrals from Pinterest? It doesn't make sense because I guess there's a point in time where I like got really interested in it. And so I was posting short things in there and people pinned them.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, people sleep on Pinterest. People on Pinterest utilize it like a search engine. They're searching for stuff actively on Pinterest.
Yeah. I mean,
And
I usually look for decoration or
yeah,
recipes, right?
right.
That's my
I look at like nail art and
yeah.
like, that's what I leverage it for. But I feel like in the beginning when I was starting my business, I was looking for stuff.
Is
around
there a
social.
demographic? Do we see like a standard demographic? I mean, I know
It's
it's
mostly
women,
women like
women.
that are hitting milestone moments, like having a, getting married, having a new baby, that kind of thing. But I will say, since 2020, I think it's shifted because it used to be primarily like 80% were women. Uh, but I think there's more men who are adopting Pinterest since 2020 because of like all the at-home DIY things
Mm,
and all of the hobbying things. So I think that's been a shift we've been seeing over on that platform as of late, but it's still
the
majority
sleeper
women.
hit, Pinterest.
Yeah. Like if you have a blog, there's no reason, and I'm also talking to myself here,
Yeah.
there's no reason why you should not be pinning your blog to your
Right.
Pinterest account
That's
every
and I
week.
think that's what it was. I did that for like a while and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to do Pinterest." And every time I have a podcast or every time we have a blog, we're going to stick it on there just to why not, right? And then we
Yeah.
kind of fell off because there's just so many things to do in a day. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And the thing that I love about Pinterest is the behavior of Pinterest is people don't go on there every day, but when they go on there, they're pinning like 11 things at once.
And
And
they're there to
so,
look for something. That's
yeah.
the
And so
thing. That's the
yeah,
thing.
so I think if you go on there, you can mimic that behavior and
Yeah.
you can go there and just like add 10 pins to your board
And one day. Yeah,
from
yeah,
your
yeah.
website in one day for that whole week and just to see how it goes and then track the metrics.
I think that's another great thing about Pinterest is it's not like time sensitive the way like maybe an Instagram or
Yes.
Facebook or something else is.
Not
Like
relying on a trend.
no one's going to look at how many things you posted in one day. They're just
Mhm.
going to see stuff. They're not, it doesn't matter when you posted it. So I like that aspect of it. Um Instagram, it feels like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, like the cadence and all that stuff is like a thing.
Yeah. You have to be consistent. I always say people like I'm never going to tell you to post 7 days a week. I'm going
Is
to
that
tell
too
you to post.
much?
I wouldn't say it's too much. It just is based on what you can keep consistent. Like
Okay.
I've seen people go viral multiple times a month by only posting like 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah. Because
Like,
people
and
are
again,
waiting for it.
yeah, and it goes back to like, do you know your audience? Do you know the behavior of your audience and if they're paying attention there? And so I always tell clients like we're gonna go with more is more until we can understand better what content is resonating. And then we might pull back and then optimize, those pieces of content that maybe we're only posting 3, 4 times a week versus 5 or 6. So that
I
we
might
can
have
really
to
dive
refresh
in.
my strategy. I don't think we get a lot of, we work a lot on referrals and we're
Yeah.
like industry focused. So we do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, but Instagram, I've always just been like so I don't know, on the fence about Instagram. But maybe like for us, I was just thinking about like a refresh strategy of maybe like doing a PR thing for PR people, like just something funny, something like because we're
Yeah.
so stressed out, like for communication professionals, we're like so stressed out all the time. Maybe something like as like a
POV.
yeah, like and something just really like entertaining because thinking about like when you scroll, you're just Instagram, a lot of times you're scrolling, you're not searching for something
People
unless
are
you're
there
working.
to be entertained. People
Right.
go on TikTok, Instagram, like everyone goes to social to escape something else that's happening in their life.
Right. Or
Looking to be
if
entertained.
that's your job, posting for your job.
Yeah, I know. I feel that. I feel that in my soul.
I've been doing all the Instagram and TikTok recipes,
Nice.
which I mean, some of those are really good, actually. They're
I
really
did
good.
like a cocktail one this past weekend with my
People are doing a good job.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't
So
have
I
like
think
the cute little ornaments to put the cocktail in, but I made a big like vat of it
a big fat.
in a punch bowl.
That should be a social media post for communicators. A
Yeah.
vat instead of like a shot, we have a vat of alcohol
Yeah. Yeah. Just a full thing.
with
But
a
yeah,
nice
so
with a straw.
yeah.
Yeah.
I did get these things as an aside, speaking
Yeah.
of cats, but like there was like a white elephant gift that I got. It's like a whole entire stocking with like a spout on it.
Oh
Like
my goodness.
in college, like slap the bag with wine. I don't know. Anyway.
Okay, well, you've given me some
That's an
ideas for my
aside.
social media. Let's kind of bring this to a T. I want to really talk about before we get off here is 2024. What should we be looking out for? What should people be considering as they're diving into this?
Yes. So I think the biggest thing, and we kind of just mentioned it when with our whole discussion around Pinterest, the big thing that people need to be paying attention to is folks are starting to more often search for things on social.
Okay.
So they are looking for things on social media. Millennials, Gen Z, they're on TikTok searching for things. So as you are creating your content, you want
Mhm.
to not only optimize your hashtags appropriately, but you want to also be thinking about what am I going to include in my caption? What keywords am I going to be including in my caption? That's a big thing on all platforms. So just consider that as you're writing your content. The second thing is please adopt a video. Please. I mean, this is nothing new. It's been like the trending thing for the past like 8 years, it seems. But get really good at telling quick stories in 7 seconds or less. YouTube Shorts, I think, is going to have a wider adoption as we go forward. If, and that's a big if, the algorithm figures itself out.
Mhm.
The third is LinkedIn has been really focused on text only content right now.
Uh-huh.
And we've touched on that a little bit. And I've been testing that on my side where I don't even add a graphic. I just add text as an
Yeah.
update on my profile, and it's been getting more impressions and more engagement. I think that's something that currently is freaking people out because the algorithm has shifted over there on LinkedIn, where people are freaked out because they're getting less impressions, aka less eyeballs seeing their content,
Uh-huh.
but they're getting more engagement. So that means even though it's showing to less people, it's showing to the right people, which I
Okay.
think is encouraging. Fourth, AI. Social media managers will be like BFFs with AI. And I think business owners are a little bit further away from that adoption.
Yeah.
Um, and number five is ways to basically make the internet feel more intimate because it is a very noisy place. So I think people are going to be seeking out niche communities, whether they be leaning into Facebook groups, which I feel like some people are tired of, but they'll be joining masterminds and things like that that have, Discord channels or Slack channels or, a different membership kind of dashboard
Mm-hmm.
where they want to engage and they want to hang out with like-minded professionals. So I think there's going to be a major shift to that because people just want the internet to feel smaller for them. So those are
Yeah.
my quick five.
I don't know. Oh, there we go. There we go. So I'm using this whiteboard. Guys, I know. I'm advanced. I'm
So
advanced.
fun and
I
brave. I
figured
would be like, I don't know how to use this.
I figured let's do this for best practices. Optimize your hashtags, adopt video content if we both haven't been saying that.
Hmm.
Leverage LinkedIn more. Think about text only posts, AI, and I'm just gonna say everything that comes with it.
Yes. Pay attention to it.
And 5 ways to make the internet feel more intimate. That's a really interesting idea and concept. I like that. Um, one of the things I recently wrote about was how people are going away from niche services. And then people have been like now, like at least people that I've worked with, startups, companies are trying to be everything to everyone because everybody does. They want an all-in-one solution. Hold on. I'm gonna put this how do we get this off now?
Hmm.
Okay, let's see. There we go.
Yeah.
So everybody does want like an all-in-one solution. So now everyone's like, okay, I'm gonna be this SaaS platform, I'm gonna be a project management tool, I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be that. And it makes it really hard for us to do media relations from a PR standpoint because there's no specific value proposition. You want to be 500
Mm,
things. And so I have noticed that a lot of the messaging has moved from very niche messaging towards a targeted audience to a broad, vague message to a broader audience. Um, and I think that's also messing with media landscape and like how people are telling stories. It's just not
mm.
able to, you're not able to tell a more specific story of how someone did something when it's like so broad all the time. So it's interesting to
That
say,
is
okay, you want to be more
interesting.
intimate. Yeah.
That's really interesting because you're right. Like from a PR standpoint, you kind of wanted it to be a little bit more
I want to be
relevant
as
to
niche
the
as
audience.
possible, right? Because I want to be
Yeah.
special. I want my story to be special. But yeah, I found that a lot of startups are just so scared. Everyone's so afraid of being boxed out of something.
Yeah. And I also have found that too when consulting with clients, and I'm like, you need to take a stand on something.
Something.
You need to not be afraid of sharing your opinion that is really anchored in your expertise.
Right.
And but they're scared because there's all these competitors out here saying they do XYZ thing and they don't want to be like that person. But I
Right.
will tell you, 9 times out of 10, when I share something that either irks me or share something that I see people doing incorrectly, in my opinion, or in my research or my experience, when I share it, I attract people to me and
Uh-huh.
repel people away from me. And that is the ticket. So when you're
Yeah.
showing up, how can you be authentically, to like wrap this up with a bow? How can you
Yeah.
be authentically yourself? Share your differentiator because that is going to be the key to attracting the right people into your corner of the internet.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said it. You said it right there.
Mic drop. Whoop.
Well,
Thank
Carlin, thanks again. I always love
you.
talking to you and talking about these ideas and concepts. And I hope in this short amount of time, I hope that like everybody kind of got a grasp on, I'm like, hey, okay, I have some ideas on what I want to do for next year. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. I can help connect you with Carlin, but it's Carlin at osnapsocial.com if you want to reach out to her directly. And we're here for you. If you guys have questions, ask us on LinkedIn.
Yeah, do it. Find us
All
on
right.
LinkedIn. Thank you for having
Well,
me.
thanks again. Yeah, happy holidays. Have a great
Bye.
week. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.